Okay, last part for this exercise. I want to juice up the ball a little bit. I'm going to make a trail go behind the ball, so it's going to make a little comet trail behind it. And that's going to require me to set up something in each of my scenes. So I will make a prefab and then dump that prefab into every scene. And let me talk through what I'm going to do. So when the ball moves, I want to leave some little balls behind and have them fade away into nothingness. So we get a kind of trail behind the player that fades away over time, very quickly over time, like less than a second. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to do some tricks. So first thing I'm going to do is select my ball and Control C and Control V. I'm going to call this other ball Comet Ball. And I'm really just doing this to speed myself up. So I'm going to open up Comet Ball. I'm going to delete both the base and highlight. No, wait, sorry. Yes. I'm actually going to delete just about everything. I'm going to add to it. So I'm going to remove the audio source. I'm going to remove the variables. Yes. Oh, script machine first yelled at me. And I crashed Unity. Awesome. So be careful what you do. I accidentally double-clicked on something. I'm going to open Unity back up. Close Visual Scripting Graph. Now I'm going to grab prefab. Here's my comet ball. Okay. I'm actually going to remove everything. These balls are not going to do anything but be just visible. So I want a sprite renderer. And in the sprite, I'm going to grab ball gray. And there we go. So this is just a simple thing that goes to the screen, but I do want it in a prefab because I'm going to make a bunch of these. So the second thing I'm going to do is, so because the ball's moving, I don't want to do a bunch of hard transformational math where the ball moves, so I put a ball behind it and make sure that the ball follows, or make sure that I do an offset. That all sounds really hard. So instead I'm going to cheat. And what I'm going to do is use a parent object. So I'm going to create an empty game object. I'm going to call it Comet Container. Let's actually name it. There we go. Comet Container. I'm going to reset it so it's at the center of the screen. I want it to be at the center of the screen because it's going to function as an overlay. And so what the overlay is going to do is hold a bunch of balls, and then it's going to fade them out and destroy them over time. So I am going to get to that point in a bit. This thing is going to be a prefab with a script machine on it, but right now let's do this incrementally so that we can see how this all works over time. So first thing I'm going to do, or the next thing, so I have the comet ball, I have this comet container. I'm going to go into the ball. We're going to do some tricks here. So I'm going to delete those things and now recreate them. So here's the script. So what I'm going to do, the reason that last time I did not delete the sequence is I'm actually going to use it now. So after the ball moves or follows the paddle or doesn't follow the paddle, what it's going to do is create one of those faux balls, one of those copy balls, and just create it where it currently is. And it's also going to add it to our container. So we need two new object variables. One is comet container. and we're going to make this a transform. And we're going to leave it as none. So let's do this in order. So what we're going to do, and the reason I'm going to need one of these in every scene, is I am going to, after I spawn and find the player tag and do all this stuff, the ball is going to find game object find. We're going to find comet container, and we are going to set object variable variable. Okay, it's not finding it in the list. We're just going to call it comet container. Let me just Control C, Control V, drag from there to there. So I'm going to get the comet container, set its transform to be that, and let's make sure this works. So we're going to come back out here. We have our ball. I'm going to revert ball. There we go, comet container. So you shouldn't have to do this, but I had added something to this earlier. So comet container, it sorts none. Now when I hit play, it should now say comet container, capital C, capital C. There we go. So it found it and grabbed its transform. Now it has it for later use. So now, over here, not done yet. So I also need comet prefab. And this will be a game object. And this is going to be the prefab I made a little bit earlier. So the comet ball, I'm just going to drop that in. There we go. So now, come over here, and we're going to do game object instantiate. And we want the one with parent, because what I'm going to instantiate, get this full screen, is we're going to grab the comet ball. So we're going to make a comet ball. We are going to make it at transform position. So where we currently are, we are going to get quaternion identity, which is the normal quaternion. And we are going to grab our comet container, and that is going to be the parent. So, is this good? Yeah, it's going to yell at me. It says parent cannot be null, but by the time I start to this, it will not be null, so we should be good. And so now this is going to create a bajillion balls, probably, if I did it right. Yep. So now as I move, it makes a whole bunch of balls. And as now we have the ball path, goes forever, and that's okay, but now super visually concerning. So let's now fade those out over time. So what I'm going to do is now close that, so that's done. And then I'm going to go in this comet container, I'm going to add a script machine. And I'm going to create a new visual script. And we're going to call it comet children. And we're going to edit it. So what we're going to do on update is we're going to do a loop. So I'm going to do a for loop, which goes, initial one is 0 to 9, of course, because it doesn't do the last one. But what I want to do is now want, oop, battery's running low. I'm going to pause and try to fix that. Okay, I'm back. So on event loop, for loop 0 to 10. And so we're going to get transform num child count. So how many children does this have? And so we're going to stick this in. And then sticking out of the body, we are going to get child at index. Transform get child. There we go. At index, the index is this index. So if we have 100 children, it'll go from 0 to 99. If it has 3 children, it goes 0, 1, 2. And so for each of those, it'll get, so it has a big list of children, and they each have an index number. So it'll use this index number. It'll go through from 0 to how many children there are. It'll grab that index, and now we have the child. So, and there will all be comet balls. So what I'm going to do from there is get component, and the component is going to be sprite renderer. So every frame, what we're going to do is we're going to get component from that transform. So we're going to get the sprite renderer from that child. And then we're going to do some color magic. And I could do this in tweens, but I actually just want to, I'm doing it by hand. It's good practice to do some stuff by hand. So I'm going to get a color. And if I get a color literal, it's going to start at this color, and then it's going to exist. It's going to go through this loop, and then it'll exist until I get back to the next one. It goes through the loop again, and then it'll be a different one. So this is kind of what we call a temporary variable. So I've got that color, and what we're going to do is we are going to, from here, we are going to get color, sprite renderer, get. Sprite renderer get color. There we go. You have to be careful sometimes what you drag out. Sometimes it doesn't let you. Oh, right, because sprite color is just a get. You can't, get is not in the flow. So what is in the flow, which is like a thing we can actually do, is sprite renderer get set color. So what we're going to do is get its color, and then we're going to do some math, some addition really. So we're going to take this and get its A, and then, oh, sorry, no, you're going to set its A to be there. So we're going to, the reason I have to do this is we can't actually modify color directly. It's actually not a variable. So all we can do is pull it out, actually stick its value in this other color. So what this does is it creates this color, sets the alpha of this color to be this color A. But not yet. I'm actually going to subtract. And we're going to subtract float literal of 0.1. So it's going to take about 1 second, or no, depending on my clock speed, it's going to disappear really fast. But every frame, it's going to subtract 0.1 from the alpha. So after 10 frames, it will disappear. So then we're going to stick that into here. And then we are going to get the sprite renderer. Here's the sprite renderer. So we get its color and then reset it over here. And the color is going to be this color. Now this looks a little weird because it looks like we didn't do anything. So the flow is we get the sprite renderer and we set its alpha. And we say, okay, what are we setting alpha of? This thing over here. And what are we setting it to? Well, we get the sprite renderer, we get its alpha, we subtract 0.1 and stuff it in. So in normal code, this would be top to bottom, but instead this is kind of this weird route where things go backwards and then forwards again. So subtracts, there we go. So if I did this right and I hit play, the balls are going to fade out of existence. There we go. So that looks more interesting, doesn't it? But we're not done yet. Let me hit play again. Okay, so I'm gonna let this run just a little bit. And then I'm gonna hit pause. And so transform get child count 223. So the longer this runs, the more children. If we can look here in the comet container, tons of these things. Most of them are alpha all the way down. There we go. So it goes from earliest to latest. So they're around, taking up memory and not doing anything. So that's not great. So the final thing we're going to do with this code is after I set its color, we are now going to do an if, and we're going to ask, we're going to grab this get color again. Actually, we're going to get the A, and we're going to ask if it's less than or equal to 0. Again, this stuff is kind of weirdly circular because this get color at this A refers to it after I've set it, even though it's before it's way over here. So it'll check, and if it is, we're going to do a game object, destroy. And the thing we're going to destroy is we're going to come over here to this transform. We're going to pull out of here and do get component, or get game object. So we have the transform we've been referencing, but we're going to get the game object off of it and drag that over and destroy it. So first I'm going to play and then I'm going to talk for a second. So we can see over here, now it's only ever 10. So it's only making 10. After 10, it destroys it. So we still get this, but we never have more than 10 in our comet container. If you are a computer science person and interested in object pooling, I would not destroy them, but just cycle them in and out. But the other thing is if you're a computer scientist, or even if you're not, one thing to know is that in many programming situations, I did something bad. Let me talk through and say why it's not good. So, for loop, you really don't want to be adding or removing things in the middle when you're running through the whole list. Because let's say you're running through, let's say 50 items, and you're kind of in the middle of the list, and then you remove one of the list. So now the list has changed, but you're still trying to run through it. So now you might run off the edge because you think there's 50, but there's now only 49, and you'll hit a memory area you shouldn't be in. That's just one of the many pitfalls of that. The reason that I am able to destroy the object in the middle here is that really what GameObjectDestroy does is it marks an object to be destroyed at the end of the frame. So it's actually quite simple to go through this whole list, delete things as I need to, or mark them for deletion, and then run through the rest of the list. At the end of the frame, it'll go through everything and say what's marked for deletion, and then delete it. So that's why, in normal circumstances, a compiler would yell at me for changing a loop as I'm looping through it. But in this case, it's fine because this game object doesn't get destroyed until later. All right, and that is the end of exercise 3C.